Hi everyone, this is my run on Reliable Partner Lufenia stage, which is Kaiser's Lost Chapter, and this video will be covering sort of like a brute force non-synergy strategy, but it does use Ramza's burst. This run is also, I think, quite useful because it's a 0-turn boss run, so essentially you kill off the boss before they get a single turn, and it's made possible by the delay from Dark Knight Cecil's LD and Ramzas LD, as well as turn manipulation from the Onion Knight call and the support Onion Knight that I used. And because of the high damage output from the launches as well as Vivi, you actually managed to kill off the bosses just with this amount of turn delay and turn manipulation. So the main idea behind the strategy is to actually use all of Dark Knight Cecil's LD at the start, as well as have him call Jack, and then immediately swapping him out for the Onion Knight friend support. Dark Knight Cecil unfortunately wouldn't be too useful outside of his LD, mainly because the bosses, as you can see, absorb Dark. So even if he can inflict Dark in peril, after that all of his attacks will deal 0 damage. However, I did put him in the party mainly for his LD debuff, which increases all HP damage taken by 20%. Plus, using all 3 of his LD at the start will help to delay the bosses right at the start of the battle. I did consider using Kurasame in place of Dark Knight Cecil. The biggest drawback though with Kurasame is that he is capped at level 70, which means that he will not be able to equip a call unit. So for that reason, I put in Dark Knight Cecil here. Another great option, if you want to consider, would be Baltier, because he does also have HP damage increase up. However, then the drawback is that Baltier doesn't have turn delay in his kit, which makes the 0 boss turn strategy a bit more tricky to pull off. Overall, having Dark Knight Cecil in the party wouldn't be that big a liability, because for the most part, Onion Knight will be in his place, and by the time Onion Knight leaves the field, the boss will be very near to KO. The other 2 party members, I have of course Vivi, and Vivi is actually extremely strong DPS at this point of the game, and in fact he's made even stronger with Onion Knight, because Onion Knight's LD gives Vivi free ability users, which allows you to spam Vivi's AA more. Vivi normally only has 3 users of his additional ability, but with the support Onion Knight and the Onion Knight call, it gives him 4 additional ability users. And why is that important? It's mainly because his additional ability also triggers his Ember of Darkness full up attack. So in essence, further increasing Vivi's damage per turn. Lastly, I rounded off with Ramza, and Ramza is there mainly because of his burst effect. And if you actually stack Ramza's burst effect with Onion Knight call support, with Onion Knight friend support burst effect, it actually dramatically increases the damage done to the point where the brief damage reduction in the Lufenia fight doesn't really matter at all. On top of that, Ramza also brings a little bit of healing, because during the 69 and 49% HP threshold, the boss will gain a green aura and will give you a little bit of HP poison every time you take a turn, which normally isn't that big a deal because Vivi and Dark Knight Cecil drains their HP anyway. However, the drawback here is that you are only allowed to take 7,500 HP damage or less, and if you are inflicted with HP poison for more than a few turns, you will surpass this threshold. So the other purpose of Ramza is to actually just use 1 Galvanize near the end to heal off some of the damage taken from the HP poison effect. Plus, of course, like I said, his LD is a launch, which helps to deal with the green aura that the bosses get, increase the orb counter as well, while the Onion Knight friend support is in play. And of course his burst stacks up very nicely with the Onion Knight burst. It is important though that in terms of the call, that you set Jack call on Dark Knight Cecil and the Onion Knight call on Ramza, because you want to be using Jack call right at the start, so meaning that you can actually bring him into play before you swap out Dark Knight Cecil, whereas for the Onion Knight friend support you want to use it much later in the fight, so hence it's better to place it on Ramza instead of Dark Knight Cecil. In terms of summon, on hindsight, I actually think it may be better not to set Diabolos as your summon, because for one thing, Diabolos will deal 0 damage because of the boss's elemental absorption, and you run the risk as well that if you don't enchant your attacks during summon, your attacks will also be dealing 0 damage. In the run I took, it didn't matter much because my support Onion Knight enchanted the party with ice. However, I think overall Odin will probably be a better summon here, or maybe even Pandemonium summon, considering that you already have Ramza burst and Onion Knight burst providing most of the auras in the battle. So the 25% damage boost from Pandemonium probably would also be a good pick. With that said, let's move on to the battle, and I'll see you there. Okay, so starting off at the start it's really all about setup, which means inflicting all the relevant debuffs, and you actually want to try to reset to a point where you have all 3 characters moving before the bosses, such as this. And I actually don't use Ramzas LD right at the start because I'm saving it for after his burst, and I use one of his shout so that I can get to Enervate triple plus after just one LD used inside his burst. So with Dark Knight Cecil, I use one LD, and during his initial LD use, he will heal the Brave of one of the Scorpion bosses, and that's why that way you can actually use the Jack Call right after that to inflict a Rebreak, and then after that I just use the rest of his LD sequentially, such as this, and then I finally use the last of Jack regular call here before I swap him out. And I was thinking a little bit about whether to bring in Onion Knight support in this early, and I just decided, okay, let me just burn a little bit of his AA first before I bring in the Onion Knight friend support. The idea of using Dark Knight Cecil's additional ability here is to actually just waste turns so that the Scorpions will regenerate their Brave. But really, I think on hindsight here, maybe it might be better saving his additional ability to the end of the fight, where you can then use it to delay turns there. So Onion Knight friend support here, I used Onion Knight's additional ability before going into burst. And I think though, if you're using Odin or Pandemonium summon, I actually think it's better not to use Onion Knight's additional ability, because only Ramza will benefit from this, because Vivi will already have his own elemental enchant. So if you don't use Onion Knight's additional ability, you can squeeze in Onion Knight's EX, which does quite significant damage on his own. However, if you use Diabolos summon, then you do need to enchant Ramza with ice, otherwise Ramza will be dealing 0 damage inside summon. So on Ramza's second turn here, I do his additional ability to get some attack boost and immediately going into burst mode. The idea here is to have a stacking of Ramza and Onion Knight burst effect, because then the auras that they grant is very significant and will ensure that your party is always hitting for maximum Brave damage every single turn. So before I end Ramza's burst, I actually used Galvanize instead of Shout. And the only reason for that was that I thought it would be nice to give Vivi and the Onion Knight friend support some of the generic buffs that he grants. It's still rather debatable. I don't think that I don't know whether that will be better than the raw damage that using Shout will do on that turn. So during each of Ramza's turn, I never use Breathe or HP+++. The reason for that is that using his skills charge his EX meter more quickly, and you want to get to as many enervates as possible. The other reason also is that using Shout or Galvanize have high turn rate, so it actually pushes up his turn in the turn bar, as you can see here. So I've hit the 69% HP threshold here, and you see the green aura, and this is where you get hit by some HP poison until Ramza gets his next turn. So what you want to do is save one of Ramzas LD for 69% and another for 49%, which you will hit very quickly with this party setup. Okay, so I've hit 49% threshold, and this is where you want to use Ramzas LD to cause a launch again to remove the green aura. However, looking at the turn bar, the bosses are about to get their next turn, and I want to prevent that, so I have no choice but to use my summon here. And this is why it's important to have Onion Knight enchant with ice. But like I said earlier, if you use Odin or Pandemonium summon, I think it's better not to use Onion Knight's additional ability. When Vivi has his Embers of Darkness overhead buff up, you want to try to turn manipulate and always give Vivi the next free turn. This run isn't very optimal because I did waste some of Onion Knight's LD when Vivi doesn't have any more charges of Embers of Darkness. So if I replay this, I think what I could have done better is to further optimize the use of the free ability users that Onion Knight grants Vivi. However, really this is my initial run, and I just decided just push on with it and see whether I could still complete the fight. Right, here I decided first to use one Galvanize with Ramza before I do anything else. He does have 2 turns back to back here, and the reason for Galvanize is to actually heal off some of the damage that the HP poison has done. Because at that point I actually took about 9000 HP damage total from the HP poison, so at least one Galvanize is needed to enable me to meet the mission requirement. Okay, so it wasn't an optimized run because I ran out of Onion Knight fan support here. So on hindsight, maybe it might be worth it to hang on a little bit and bring in Onion Knight a little bit later. But at this point, the bosses are low enough that I think I should be able to finish them off. So with Dark Knight Cecil, his Valiant Blow is still somewhat useful because it does at least inflict launch status on the off target, which you can use for some nice damage. So during the last 10% or so health, I was actually spamming all of Vivi's additional ability to deal some cheap damage in before I finish off the bosses. So here they are at 1% health. I was trying to see whether his AA could finish the fight and save me a turn, but couldn't, so it took me one additional turn to finish off the last Scorpion. That's it. Hope this video has been helpful. If you enjoyed the content, do leave a like, comment or subscribe. It really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you in the next Lufenia fight. Bye bye. And in case you want to look at more detailed setup, these are the artifact passives and spheres that I equip on my characters.